I am gay and, like most men, I have a very high sex drive. It is always on my mind. As a gay man, I can have sex or oral sex whenever I want. I often wonder how straight men handle this. I assume female partners do not have the same sexual urges as men, so I am curious about how my straight friends manage. Story 1. I am a perpetually single heterosexual man who needs to masturbate when the urge arises. There is no other real option. Story 2. Is this question just an attempt to psychologically influence more straight men into having sex with other men with the promise of easy sex, thus increasing your personal pool of sexual partners? I am on to you. Story 3. I am a 51-year-old male, married, and have not had sex or any intimacy in about 15 months. Mostly, I just bottle up all the sexual energy, urges, and resentment, as I feel I have to do pretty much everything else and bury it deep down. Nothing could possibly go wrong with that strategy. Occasionally, I take care of things myself. Story 4. How do you handle your sexual urges? I just have sex with my girlfriend or wife. It is not that difficult. Story 5. Jacket, finish, think about everything I regret in life, then either go to bed or finish showering. Life after 2020 has been strange. Story 6. Most straight men masturbate. However, you would be surprised how many women are very interested in sex. My last 3 girlfriends thought about sex much more than I ever expected, but I would not have known if I had not been dating them. Story 7. In our relationship, I have a high sex drive, and she has a low sex drive. Last summer, I started changing my life by losing weight, quitting smoking, and beginning to exercise. My spouse was against my going to the gym, so I bought weights and equipment to use in our bedroom. Every evening, I exercised with weights while my spouse read a book. Then she started watching me exercise and became aroused just from watching. She began initiating intimacy. Now, we have intimacy every other day, except when she has her period. I please myself only when I am working abroad. When I am at home, I always know that in the evening we will have intimacy. Story 8. Can gay men really receive oral sex whenever they want? Or is this more of a rules 1 and 2 situation? If the answer is yes, does anyone know where I can obtain those frog water chemicals? Story 9. I spent time with my wife this morning, and we are currently getting ready to go pick out some new outfits and drinks for tonight. Communication is important. Story 10. You know that feeling after you climax, that peace that comes over you? The post-orgasm clarity? The feeling that maybe the orgasm was not as big of a deal as your body made it out to be while you were aroused? I think back to that feeling whenever my drive feels like it is getting out of hand. It is a good anchor and has made me significantly less frustrated when my wife is not in the mood. Story 11. Same method to stay faithful to my wife. I control my urges myself. I have been faithful for 40 years and am proud of it. Story 12. Maybe I am revealing how little I know about the homosexual community, but why is it so easy for you to get sexual encounters whenever you want? Story 13. I'm partnered right now, and I know her on buttons. Though I rarely have to initiate out of the blue, she has a high libido too, so she always lets me know when she needs it. Before her, if I was avoiding dating or relationships for whatever reason, self-pleasuring was good enough. Otherwise, just being a decent guy who is good at conversation and dresses well will get you far. Story 14. Straight man here, 52 years old, with a very high libido. I do 2 things. Have lots of sex and masturbate frequently. I am lucky to have developed a good network of friends with benefits. Since becoming single 2 years ago, I have had 50 sexual partners, and a few of them have become regulars on and off. In reality, I am sexually active only 2 or 3 days a week. When I am home alone, I masturbate about 4 times a day. Recently, I have gone as frequently as 6 times a day. I am just constantly feeling aroused. Story 15. Honestly speaking, some women are even worse than men, so I don't think it's only a man-to-man issue. To answer your question, distraction and stress are great killers of sex drive. Story 16. Honestly, things can get a little shady. Most of the time, though, it ends in self-service rather than with another person. Story 17. I lend myself a helping hand. I wish I had female friends with benefits, but I do not. I barely have female friends anymore. I have spent the last 18 years single after my divorce. Being newly single at 40 is difficult. Story 18. My wife is open whenever I want. I am busy enough with work and life that I do not bother her. Story 19. It's a ritual. Every time I step into the shower, I handle myself like a butcher. Alternatively, I just ignore the urges, but I have found that this makes me feel different. I have spent most of my life with virtually no sexual desires. Story 20. I am fortunate to be living in Thailand, where there is an abundance of affordable companionship for a man with a strong desire. My Thai wife decided about 5 years ago that she no longer wanted to be intimate, which is quite common. This is why many Thai men have a Mia Noi, or mistress, with their wife's full knowledge and acceptance. Being bisexual helped, as she did not want me to be with other women, but ladyboys were acceptable. Ladyboys enjoy intimacy as well, so this arrangement has been a positive outcome. Story 21. I don't doubt that gay men have sex more often. However, I think you are underestimating women a little bit. Women can have high sex drives too. You just have to make them feel comfortable and safe from judgment. It might be an age-related factor though. Story 22. I'm a straight man. Ideally, I would have sex every day, maybe 6 times a week. My ex-wife made me feel bad about how high my sex drive was. We did have sex regularly, a few times a week. After the divorce, I used dating apps and specifically mentioned wanting friends with benefits only. I met a couple of women who wanted sex more than I did and were disappointed when I told them I had a high sex drive but did not want to have sex 3 or 4 times a day. To answer your question more directly, I would masturbate and sleep with a woman whenever possible. Because of Tinder, I was able to build up a roster and had some fun. Now I am in a serious relationship with a woman whose drive is similar to mine. Story 23. I know what you are up to, original poster. To answer, I am doing the same thing you will be doing to some of these replies. Story 24. I ask my wife. She almost never turns me down. She also has a sensitive accelerator and insensitive brakes, an analogy from the dual control model of sexual desire. She is generally open to anything as long as she is not in pain. Story 25. Well, I just stopped masturbating about a month ago. After doing it multiple times a day for years, no end. I'm 23 currently, and I thought that was helping, but it wasn't effective. Even after ejaculation, I'm still eager to go. In my opinion, I don't think I'll ever feel satisfied. I'm just very horny. It sucks when my girlfriend says no, then she comes and asks me when I'm half asleep. But I usually just go play a game or comment on Reddit threads until the feeling wears off. Story 26. Prostitutes, honestly speaking. Happily married now, so no longer applicable, but in the past, that was always the answer for me. I traveled around too much for work, so I was never interested in trying to initiate a relationship that would eventually lead to sex. The success rate of trying to hook up with someone in the real world was not worth the effort. Story 27. I generally call a friend with benefits, trying to have at least 2 in rotation, or simply go on a dating application and find a casual partner. Story 28. Self-hate and frustration. I think I am unattractive, uninteresting, and uncharismatic, so I struggle to form relationships or have sexual experiences. Story 29. Open Tinder or Bumble and start inviting recent matches who are local until someone agrees to meet. It can be disappointing if you do not find someone on the day you want, but that is just part of the process. With experience, you learn how to increase your odds more and more. Story 30. I used to feel a little weird about going to spas, but honestly, they have helped more than I expected. I did not realize how much tension I was holding on to until I actually let myself relax. Story 31. The strategy for managing libido as a heterosexual man is being non-monogamous and earning a substantial income. That is all I will say. Story 32. I have wondered the same thing. Gay men can meet in a park bathroom after connecting online just 10 minutes before. Women, as a rule, do not prefer to do that. This is not meant to be disrespectful toward gay men, but at the root, they are still men. Story 33. Straight 28-year-old male here. I feel like this is where frequent or routine masturbation can be beneficial. You can take that advice and apply it as you see fit. I am not saying it has to be daily. Everyone is different, and you need to find your rhythm. But having that release is important, and I believe it is vital for gaining control over urges. Story 34. My girlfriend bought me a toy. It is a lot of fun, and I bought another that fits better and has more features. I have always gotten her a toy of some sort along with other gifts for her birthday and Christmas. Now she is getting me bedroom toys as gifts too. Some of these things are amazing. They do so much and provide many sensations. I would always rather have her or use the toys with her, but if I cannot sleep and need to relax, it is easy to use lubricant, slide in, or get involved with the gadget, push a couple of buttons, and let the machine do the work. Story 35. I go to my partner and whisper sweet, dominant things in her ear to get her nice and moist. Then later, it's go time. Story 36. I don't know. I have never really felt an overwhelming urge. I like sex and find it enjoyable, but I have never felt a strong desire for it. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. Story 37. There are many women with naturally high libidos, some insatiably high. I am one of them. I am always chasing the next bigger, better, stronger, more intense orgasm daily. It has been this way since I was very young. There are also many men with low libido, especially nowadays when low testosterone is becoming more common. This is not their fault and just requires treatment. I suggest not implying that simply being born male means having a higher libido. This is not necessarily true. I was very active in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community when I was younger. I am bisexual and was living with a woman at the time. However, I became close friends with a group of gay men we met at our local gay community center. I am very aware of how things were back then and heard many of their stories regularly. Story 38. Gay or straight, pleasure from sex is great, but pleasure from a long-term intimate relationship is far greater, with or without frequent sex. What will you remember later in life? All the orgasms with random people, or the years of trust, honesty, laughter, and friendship from one special person? If your target in life is the next orgasm, you are missing out on 90% of life. Story 39. I envy gay men because sex is basically always on the table for them. Want oral sex? Done. Want to have anal sex? Done. Men's love language is sex. Women's love language is emotions. Unfortunately, even if you meet that love language, sex is not guaranteed. For men to get oral sex from a woman, it requires a lot of investment, money, and time. Women feel emotionally connected through gifts and thoughtful considerations, all of which take time. Men don't mind the pursuit, but that doesn't mean it is not exhausting. Sometimes it feels like all the stars need to align perfectly to get them into bed, while men can basically just say, "Hey, I am bored. Want some oral sex?" And it's done. Men require no emotional investment or even money. Just be a decent person and look good. I love women, but I envy the gay community sometimes. Story 40. Hey, it's cool that you're gay and curious about how straight people do it. My girlfriend's intimate area is dry right now because of her stress and hormones, so I've been watching adult content or doing something else. If she found out, she would get upset. Our relationship is traditional, but I'm still more sexually active than if I were on a dating app. I think it makes me need to manage it in different ways. Story 41. Stop watching other people having sex and anticipating sex. Stop thinking about other people having sex. Stop talking about other people having sex. We do not have as high sexual drives naturally as we think we do. We are overstimulated. Story 42. I masturbate when I feel the urge. I might have more sex if my partner had as much of a sex drive as I do, but I am fine. We do things that are borderline sexual all the time, like cuddling and making out. It is obvious that she loves me and is attracted to me. If that were not the case, I would probably feel very different about our relationship. Story 43. I've got a phone, hands, imagination, and friends with benefits. Eventually, I might add an occasional partner to that. I'm covered. Before I had all of this, there was a lot of desire, and I think it's why so many men resort to prolonged pornography watching, which tends to be a very poor decision in my opinion, but we all have our vices. When I overuse pornography, I tend to take hits to self-confidence, and my insecurity increases severely. Story 44. Back when I was single, I could use an app, match with a girl, and have her in my bed by the night's end. I was very much promiscuous during my single phases, but a devoted and loyal man during my relationship phases. I'm married now, and our sex life could not be any better. I woke up an hour early today and got up to shower. My wife, who doesn't wake up as early as I do, got out of bed and walked into the shower while I was in there to be intimate. Even after the baby, we're still going at it like nothing has changed. I will start the bakery again soon, and intimacy will continue. Story 45. No text content provided to process. Story 46. If someone places a lot of importance on their sexuality or sexual identity, regardless of orientation, it is natural that it becomes a bigger part of their thoughts and behavior. In communities like lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and others, where identity is closely tied to sexuality and has historically been suppressed or marginalized, it can sometimes be more visible. Story 47. I post nude photos here, hoping to find someone interested in me. Exhibitionism helps me satisfy this desire somehow. Story 48. I have sexual urges, especially when I am fertile. When I am in a relationship, I talk to my partner. When I am single, I either masturbate or have a short fling. Story 49. We either masturbate when we get home or just ignore it, but it does affect our personality. Testosterone makes us more hyper, but we just do not act on any urges. Sometimes we talk about women we see and how attractive they look, but we rarely do that now because everything we say could be considered sexual harassment. Story 50. Communicate, listen, and care about my partner's pleasure so that they desire what I have to offer as often as possible, averaging about 4 days a week. I take care of things myself when they are not around or do not want to. Story 51. I think you are confusing your own experience of having a high sex drive with the old stereotype about men thinking about sex more than women. Story 52. If you want the best answer, focus your energy on becoming the kind of man who has a lot of sexual access. Story 53. You assume incorrectly. I am sure the grinder scene is much easier for casual hookups. I guess the main difference is that we see the same woman multiple times or are dating. Story 54. Throughout most of my marriage, I was frustrated and masturbated about 10 to 15 times for every time I was with my wife. Now I have a girlfriend with a higher drive than her, so that ratio has dropped significantly. However, my wife has said I would really need about 3 to 4 women. I am not pursuing that for other reasons. Story 55. I never have to worry. Sexual urges are not hard to control. It is completely mental. My wife also keeps me pretty satisfied. Story 56. I'm borderline demisexual, but when I'm in a relationship and emotionally engaged, a switch flips and I become hypersexual. I don't stay with chaste women or women who feel guilty when they are aroused. I'm fairly active in my local community on FetLife, but I don't interact sexually with anyone I'm not dating. Most of the women I know on the platform are some of my best friends. To answer your question, when I'm single, I masturbate occasionally when I'm horny. When I'm in a relationship, I have sex 2 to 5 times a day. My last relationship was a long-distance relationship, so she barely had enough time to put down her purse before I was all over her. Story 57. You're dealing with a lot of misinformation here, buddy. I'm not saying this to offend anyone, but social media is filled with the lower echelon of men. The lack of ability to find sexual partners is often exaggerated. This planet has over 4 billion people. Women are just as interested in sex as men are. However, when you get on social media, the reality is that you almost never hear the whole story. For example, men will get on the internet and say things like, "My wife doesn't want to sleep with me anymore," but they won't talk about the many factors that led to that point. Being gay doesn't mean that you have unlimited sex. Like everyone else, you still have to deal with availability of partners and attraction. For example, I can confidently say that I've never had trouble finding women who want to have sex with me. I'm 34 and I haven't been single for more than 1 month since I was 18. In that time, I've had 7 serious relationships and more than 30 casual encounters. But my experience isn't universal. Like, bro, I sometimes have to hide my penis from my wife. On Sunday, we had sex 4 times. Then again on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I was so tired of sex I literally went to the gym late at night just to avoid her. Story 58. Sexual frustration. Here are more points I have mentioned in detail. Story 59. What do you mean? Do you think heterosexual men have it harder? I always thought it must be much harder for gay men to find partners. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.